Hello, Bricks fans. So today I just wanted to look at some dynamic data and conditionals using custom PHP functions and debugging some of that. I see questions on this all the time in the communities. There are some quirks that we need to be aware of, and debugging helps with those quirks. I just want to run through quickly and show you what I found. I did do a video a few months ago on BugFu, but it was fairly broad, and I wanted to very specifically deal with dynamic data and dynamic conditions in Bricks, hence the video today. So on the screen, I currently have 3 headings, and each of those headings have got dynamic data calling a dynamic PHP function. And in this case, I'm showing what's being returned as well by my test condition. And I'm going to look at how this works and one of the quirks that I found. Then I'll move on to the last one, which is actually an array, checking for a value in an array. I'll show you a quirk with that as well. So what we have here is, if I have a look at my code manager, I'm just going to find my code block again. So I use BugFu for debugging this kind of thing. And I normally have a function that I create for debugging with BugFu. It just helps me to put some context to it and doesn't generate any PHP errors if we turn BugFu off. So if you just Bugfreelog and you go into BugFu in WordPress and you switch it off, you're going to get errors generated by your code, PHP errors. So what I'd prefer to do is check and make sure BugFu is actually enabled and then call Bugfreelog. And I'll show you where that actually happens. So the first few here, so I'm going to go through these first 3 for here. So I've got here this prefix of WPE, test get hide me text, and test get show me text. All I do is setting a text value, calling my debug function up here, which sends the text and the function name. All right, now in BugFu, come back to that screen. Where is it? Here. So what that does is when BugFu logs to the console, we get our context and our data. Okay, so in here, for example, we're getting F5 on that. May not always be in the same order. That's the test condition first. Array test condition. Okay, let's do the conditions first. So we're called test get hide me text, and the data that was returned is hide on true, which is test get hide me text hide on true. So that's log we're seeing in the console was from this function calling that. All right, so that's fine. So we do that for a hide and a show. Now what you'll see here is the number 1. All right, but what I've returned down here in the condition is a Boolean true. So that's the first quirk I found with Bricks, is that the Boolean true does not translate through to a Boolean in the conditions here. So if I go to my conditions and I will look at this first one, look at my conditions. So if I put there not equal to true, that is not actually valid because it's either a true returns a 0 or a 1. So if I want this to hide, what am I saying? Hide me. What I did that for the hide me on true. So hide on true. So we would have to actually change this to be a 1. So equals 1. If we say equals 1 in our debugging here, so we're returning true as a Boolean in PHP. Bricks is interpreting that as a 0 or 1, so 1 is a true. So if I want that to show, actually we want that to hide, don't we? So I'm going to make that equals 0. All right, I'm going to equals 0 and then have a look at that. It's hidden. Okay, now if we go to the next one, which is the show on true equals 1. Show on true, let me get out of here. We go to this show on true and have a look at our conditions. I don't have a condition. I must have taken it off. Right, so I'm going to go back to this one here. That is my test conditions. I'm just going to add it here. So if I go into my conditions here and I select dynamic data, still want to get the same data, and I want this to actually show when it equals true. So it equals 1. Okay, so show on true is now showing. If I change that to a 0, 5, now it's gone. Okay, so I'm thinking realistically what we have to do is not use Boolean in PHP, otherwise this is going to get really confusing. So what I would suggest we do is, instead of returning a Boolean, we return a string true or a string false. If I do that, now I can test for, in my conditions, I want this to show me if it is equal to true. Okay, did I set that to true? I think I did, yes. Now, if I do an F5, now it shows, and my value shows as true. So it's not converted from a Boolean PHP to a 1 or 0 in Bricks where it's testing it. So it must be testing it using JavaScript, which doesn't have Booleans. So that might be the reason it's doing that. So if we want the other one to hide, we could say if it's equal to or not equal to, we'll hide if not equal to true. Okay, and if we look at that now, we should do an F5, hidden. So we've got show on true, true. And if we go back to our test here and return a string false, anything other than true, and F5, now we've got the hide on true and the value is false. So it works if we return a string and compare the string, doesn't work if we return a Boolean and try to compare it to a Boolean, because the Boolean becomes a 1 or a 0. So that's the first little thing I found. That's a trick. Now the next one is the array. So if I look at my test here, what I'm looking for my dynamic data, I've got a 3P test array, and what I'm doing there is returning a state of cat, dog, and show, and debugging that as well. So what we see, if we look in the console, we will see context is sketch, show array, text. That's it. It's the conditions we look at. So the conditions get read first. So let's have a look up here. So test condition, and test array condition. So what it's returned is an array of cat, dog, and show. All right, so that's what we've just returned from our PHP here. And in our ordered list here, what we need to do is then go, okay, so we look at the array condition. So we're going to echo the array condition, and we'll look to see whether it contains the word show. So it only shows if it contains the word show. So that's how we would test for an array. Here's the quirk. Now that is showing, right? If I go F5, I'm seeing this array show here, right? What if I change the where am I? The PHP to, sorry, I'm lost in my PHP here. If I change the array and I change that to ABC. Oop. ABC. All right, save that. Now have a look at my front end. F5. Now my array has gone. Right? We have a look at what's returned up here. We've got cat, dog, and ABC. Now that's fine because it doesn't contain show. Now generally in JavaScript, when we're looking at if an array contains something, it's an exact match. And this is where Bricks is not doing it the same. So I'm not sure how they're actually testing. If I put show then put a whole bunch of random letters after it. Save that. Do an F5. Now it shows. So what it's done is it said that the condition is true because this array contains the word show. So I'm wondering whether it's just flattening this whole string and just doing a search for the pattern rather than doing an actual array comparison and looking inside the array to see if that actual key exists or value exists. So not the best. It means that you can get some strange conditions where, let's say you've got a common word, like you might have show if completed form and show if has last name. Now both of those are going to be true when you use the contain from Bricks. So if I put here show, let's actually do that now. So if I put go in here and go show if form completed. Okay, so we can say show form completed and show if test completed. So we've got two values in our array that have the word show in it. Right, now over here in our test, we're just looking for the word show. If I look at this here, it shows that because it's got the word show in one of these values up here. In one of these values. So the word show is in this array twice. So you're going to have to be very specific. If I go show if form completed, if I change that here and I look for the full word show if form completed, that's still going to show. All right, still going to show. If I go back to my PHP, and I take that show if form completed out, come back here, F5, and now it doesn't show. So it means that you can't use simple terms or simple short words in your comparisons for these. Otherwise, if that exists anywhere in the string that's output from that array, it's going to be true, which is confusing. This should be looking at an array. This should be looking at contains. You would expect contains to be looking at an array to work out whether that array has a value or not. So this is something that threw me. I wasn't expecting that, but being aware of that is important. So two things out of this is PHP booleans do not get tested as a boolean. They get tested as a 0 or a 1. And when you're checking in an array for a value, any part of that test is in any one of those values and it will be considered to be true. So that's the quirks that I've found so far. But understanding, using BugFu and understanding what actual function you're calling and what data you've actually got back to work with. This could be an array of post types, it could be an array of users, could be a custom API call. If you BugFu this out, you can see exactly what you've got to work with. So I think that's okay. This is quite limited, I think. It's really about whether something is exactly equal to or not equal to or greater than. So this would be to do with numbering, whether it's greater than, less than. The array contains doesn't work as you expect it to. So it's a little bit limited, which means you need to be aware of that so that in your PHP, you need to make sure whatever you return from your functions when you're testing your condition, it needs to be something that is testable. So it needs to be something like a string, or it needs to be, when you do your test, you need to look inside the array, check whether it exists and return a string true or string false or a 0 or 1, whatever you want to use. And like you cannot rely on on this here, you cannot rely on that correctly interpreting an array or a Boolean. So hopefully that makes sense. If you like this kind of thing, hit the subscribe and hit the like. Thank you.